Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Taisha Morin. I support CTE recruitment at NYC Public Schools. As we give folks a few minutes to join, let's do a quick poll. And the poll is, how much do you know about CTE and the CTE certification process? So I'm going to launch that poll now as we give folks a few seconds, few minutes to join us. So we'll take 2 or 3 minutes. How much do you know about CTE? Do you know a little bit about it? Are you here to learn about what it is? Have you already begun the process? And no matter where you are in answering these questions, it's okay if you came here and you know nothing about CTE, or you started, or you have some questions. We're just happy that you're here to join us and to learn more about teaching, career, and technical education at NYC Public Schools. So I'll give another minute or so. Okay, we have a few folks who have read a bit about it. Some are here with questions about what it is. Some of you have already begun the process. No matter where you are, you're in the right place. So we'll take one more minute. If you're now joining, we're doing a quick poll about how much do you know about CTE and the CTE certification process. Alrighty, so 24% is saying what is CTE, 63% have read a bit about it, and 9% have already begun the process. And I'm going to now close the poll because we have a lot of information to cover today. Alrighty, so as we get started, we want to share a few housekeeping notes. Click on the question mark icon to submit a question. Please wait to see if your question is addressed throughout the presentation before submitting. We will answer as many questions as possible, and we'll also show you how to access our online support center for additional support. You'll notice that there are QR codes on a bunch of our screens throughout the presentation. You can hover over these codes using your camera to access the links that are available through the QR codes. And you'll also receive a recording of this presentation in a follow-up email. So if there is anything you miss, you'll be able to access it through the recording. So don't worry, we will follow up with this information for you. So tonight we're going to speak about the transitional A pathway for becoming a CTE teacher. If you are a career changer who is thinking about shifting to teaching from your industry area, you're in the right place. If you're already a certified CTE teacher or a certified teacher in another subject area, join one of our general monthly info sessions to learn more about the application process, and you can access that through the QR code on this website, on this slide. And as I said, we have a lot to cover tonight, so let's get started because we want to provide you with as much information as possible. We're hoping that you walk away with the following tonight. Know the key details about CTE, an understanding of the CTE landscape at New York City Public Schools, including why it's such a big priority for this administration, understand the application and certification process to becoming a CTE teacher, and begin determining your own eligibility and pathway to becoming a CTE teacher. So why teach at New York City Public Schools? When you join New York City Public Schools, you join the largest, most dynamic district in the nation. And in the next slide, we're going to learn more about what that looks like. So NYCPS has over 900,000 students who speak over 180 languages, a network of 77,000 fellow teachers and New York City educators that have the unique privilege and responsibility to jumpstart the next generation of innovators, leaders, and citizens. NYCPS is comprised of 1,600 schools that are diverse as our students and the distinctive neighborhoods we serve. Within our schools, teachers build personal connections with their students, colleagues, and families to support relationship building and learning outcomes. As of September 2025, starting salaries will increase to 68,902 for bachelor's and no experience, and 77,455 with master's and no experience. Teachers' starting salaries vary based on education and experience. You can also earn additional compensation for teaching after school or summer school programs and for teaching in demanding environments. The Office of Teacher Recruitment and Quality is unable to predict what your starting salary will be based on your experience or educational attainment, regardless of the teaching pathway you choose. You can estimate your starting salary by visiting UFT's salary schedule. This outlines opportunities for increase based on previous teaching experience, longevity at New York City Public School, and educational credits. All teachers begin at the base salary and then apply for salary steps and salary differentials using the salary application system after begin teaching. If you are eligible for a higher salary due to experience or educational attainment, you must apply for a salary step when you begin teaching full-time at NYCPS, and you cannot apply before then. If you are a paraprofessional, your years of teaching do not count as full-time teaching experience. If you are a full-time substitute teacher, your experience does count as full-time teaching. But you do need to provide documentation and proof of your full-time work. And as stated, you can scan this QR code to access the UFT salary schedule, um, to look more into information about what salaries could look like, based off your education and experience. You can find additional resources regarding salary on the New York City Public Schools website as well as the UFT website by accessing these QR codes. The QR code on the left is where you can find UFT resources, and the QR code on the right is where you can find more information about salaries, through New York City Public School resources. Additional perks for working at New York City Public Schools include comprehensive health insurance plan, which include dental, vision, and prescription drugs. Some require no contribution. Annual retention bonuses prorated during your first year and increase each year. Membership with the United Federation of Teachers, that's UFT. Enrollment in a pension plan. New York City Public Schools employees are eligible for many additional benefits, including commuter benefits, a college saving program, and employee discounts, and everything from technology and media to travel, in addition to financial incentives and much more. There are also exciting loan forgiveness programs you could be eligible for as a New York City Public Schools teacher. This includes New York State Teacher Loan Forgiveness Program, which is available for teachers serving in hard-to-staff districts or who teach in subject shortage areas in New York State. You must be a New York State resident for at least 12 months to be eligible. You can scan the QR code here on the left for more details. New York City employees may also be eligible for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. So the PSLF program forgives the remaining balance on your district loans after you've made an equivalent of 120 qualifying monthly payments under an accepted repayment plan and while working full-time for an eligible employer. So as a career changer, you may be wondering what resources are available to support you in becoming a CTE teacher. New teachers at NYCPS hit the ground running with professional resources and learning opportunities tailored just for you, in addition to numerous career development opportunities available, regardless of your years in the classroom. Each year, we survey new teachers and use that feedback to improve upon offerings. This past year, 95% of new teachers listed professional learning as a top priority. So you're joining a cohort that deeply values professional growth. New teachers at NYC Public Schools receive supports tailored specifically to their needs. This includes New Teacher Week, which introduces new teachers to professional learning through 5 days of workshops led by New York City Public Schools experts. School-based mentoring, which teachers are assigned to assign new hires to an experienced and trained mentor teacher to support professional growth throughout your first year, as well as the First Class newsletter, which is a monthly digital bulletin for first year teachers that spotlights vetted resources, teaching tips, and answers common new teacher questions. No matter where they are in their career, teachers at NYC Public Schools have access to ongoing development opportunities, including coaching, PD days, and after-school learning. Optional resources are also offered through New York City Public Schools offices and UFT, as well as digital resources that help teachers stay connected to the classroom tools and further learning opportunities. So who is New York City Public Schools looking for? We are looking for passionate, collaborative, and committed teachers. If this sounds like you and you believe in the power of education to transform students' lives, then New York City Public Schools is the place for you. So we'll start by focusing on an overview of career and technical education. First off, what it is, where we see the greatest need, and what it is like to teach CTE at NYCPS. So what is CTE? Career and technical education teachers provide academic and technical instruction across work-based learning experience to high school students. NYCPS currently offers 300 programs of study across 90 schools, including 47 CTE designated schools. These programs cover 16 different industry areas. And why is NYCPS so committed to expanding CTE opportunities? And what do CTE teachers find so inspiring and meaningful? Teaching CTE is a great way to use your industry experience to prepare students for life after high school and to introduce them to career opportunities and requirements. Students are able to develop skills needed for specific career areas through their hands-on learning experience in high school. Some of the CTE industry areas include computer technology, nursing, business, and more. You can visit the state's webpage to learn more about the industry requirements for each industry area, and you can access that through the QR code provided here. And we'll talk more about how to find out if New York City Public Schools has a CTE program in your industry area later in the session. We are especially interested in applicants with experience in high demand fields such as business, information technology, healthcare, and heat, ventilation, and air conditioning. If you have industry experience in these areas, you can expect to see more CTE teaching opportunities available. Now we are excited to take a few minutes for you to hear about the impact of CTE at NYCPS from our students as well as our CTE teachers. So I'm going to launch the video so that we could hear a little bit more of a firsthand account. Alrighty. Alrighty. So we hope you enjoyed learning about the impact of CTE from our students and teachers. Now we will dive into CTE teacher certification pathways, exploring the most common options, providing examples, and guiding you on how to choose the pathway that best suits you. If you are a career changer, the best pathway to become a CTE teacher is through Trans A certification. A Trans A teaching certificate allows the employment of individuals with industry experience who meet the educational and or occupational requirements of the New York State Education Department's for a career and technical education industry area. What is unique about Trans A certification is that it allows you to teach before receiving an initial certificate, which is the typical first certificate for most New York City public school teachers. So let's take a look at the difference between traditional teaching certification and a Trans A certification. In a traditional teaching program, candidates must earn your teaching certificate before they can teach in a classroom. Obtain a bachelor's degree in education. This typically takes 4 years, and it requires specific coursework and infill teacher training. On the other hand, Trans A certification is the non-traditional route to becoming a teacher, allows candidates with industry experience to share your industry related skills with students without having to go through a teacher prep program. And you can earn a CTE teaching certificate without any prior teaching experience. Trans A certification is provided by the New York State Education Department, also known as NYCED, and we'll review this process tonight, but note that we do not make the final award determinations for certification. A Trans A certificate allows you to teach grades 7 to 12 for 3 years. Within those 3 years, you'll need to remain at the same NYCPS school and complete the course requirements to apply for an initial certificate, which we'll share more information about that later in the presentation. You can use this QR code to review NYCED's experience requirements by title to identify the industry area in which you have the most experience and or education in. This tool gives a detailed description of what work experience NYCED is looking for your desired industry area. And later on in the presentation, we will show you a different tool, but this specific tool has like paragraph descriptions of what that your work experience in the industry area that you're applying for has to look like. So this is a great tool to utilize in terms of assessing if your work experience aligns with what NYCED is looking for. There are many different pathways teacher candidates can take to receive a Trans A certification. The pathway you choose will likely depend on your education level, your industry experience, and industry credentials if you have. Tonight, we will be going over some of the most common pathways, and we'll share information about where you can get more details about all the pathway options. As stated, there are multiple pathways available for Trans A certification. This chart shows at a high level the multiple pathways available for Trans A. Again, the pathway you choose will likely depend on your education level, your industry experience, and industry credentials if you have any. This tool is the New York State Certification Requirements search page. This is where you're going to search for relevant pathway requirements for your industry area. Be sure to check this web page carefully to find specific requirements for your industry area as they are unique to that industry area. When searching on this page, you'll put the following information in the drop-down menu. Select Career and Technical Teacher as your area of interest, and then the industry area you are interested in as the subject area. Then you will select the specific title you want to see the qualifications for. So you'll select Trans A, and in the grade level, the only option that will be available will be 7 to 12, as Trans A only qualifies to teach grade 7 to 12. And then once you select your pathway as transitional A, you'll be able to click search to see all the specific pathway requirements for your industry area. As stated in the earlier slide, the the CTE titles requirements by title page had the descriptions of what work experience looked like. This is going to be more listicle tool of the number of years of work experience and different requirements NYCED is looking for. So you should utilize both those tools to help you determine which pathway is best for you. And you can use the QR code here to access that. There are some items that are required for Trans-8 certification across all pathways. These requirements include completing 3 workshops, committing to teaching at the same NYCPS school for 3 years of your Trans-8 certification, receiving a year of mentoring and daily supervision for your first 20 days of teaching, fingerprint clearance. And we'll talk a bit more about some of these requirements tonight, and you can also find more information on the links provided in these QR codes. And as we said, we'll be sharing this presentation with you so you can access all these links after tonight's session. So pathway A and B are the most common pathway CTE candidates use to get their Trans-8 certification. To qualify for Pathway A, you must have at least an associate's degree in the field you are applying for and a minimum of 2 years of work experience in that field. Pathway B, which is also very popular, to qualify for this pathway, you must have at least a high school diploma and at least 4 years of work experience in the field you're applying for. And you must take and pass a New York State teacher certification exam, communicative and quantitative skills. You can find out more about this test in the QR code provided here. Some additional pathways we see candidates use are pathways G and J. To qualify for Pathway G, you must have at least 2 years of work experience in the field you're applying for, as well as hold an industry credential or pass a state-approved industry exam. To qualify for Pathway J, you must have a bachelor's degree or higher in the field and either 1 year of work experience or an industry credential. As you can see, each pathway is unique, and there are further nuances within pathways depending on your industry area. You want to make sure to check the state certification requirements page and the industry requirements page to see what you might qualify for. So we know that navigating pathways can be quite complex. So let's talk through a few examples. In this example, Lena has an associate's degree in mechanical engineering technology from Queensborough Community College. And she has worked for 5 years as a mechanical engineer. Lena should pursue Pathway A because she has an associate's degree in the industry field, as well as at least 2 years of work experience in that field. As a second example, let's take a look at David. David has worked as a registered nurse in a New York hospital for the past 3 years. Because David has an industry-related credential, which is his registered nursing exam or the RN credential, and he has at least 2 years of work experience, he should pursue Pathway G. As our last example, let's consider Jasmine. Jasmine has been working as a hairstylist and manicurist since she graduated from high school and obtained her New York State cosmetologist license. Jasmine should pursue Pathway B, which does not require any higher education after high school or a GED. However, Jasmine will have to take the New York State Communication and Quantitative Skills exam. Note that according to NYCE's requirements page, a cosmetology license is required for all pathways to become a CTE cosmetology teacher, even where an industry license isn't listed as a requirement. That is why it's so important to carefully check that NYCE's requirements page for your industry area and pathway. So there might be other industry areas that also have additional requirements across all pathways. Another example of that would be the example with David, who's a nurse for nursing. Across all pathways, having a registered nurse license is required. So it's important to triple check for your particular industry area what the requirements are. We will now dive into the next steps to becoming a CTE teacher, the job search process, and answering questions you may have at the conclusion of the presentation. We know that the CTE application and certification process can be quite confusing, so we've broken them down into 8 steps, which we will now walk you through in detail to help you kickstart your CTE journey at New York City Public Schools. So the first thing you're going to do, you're going to select your industry. Be sure to carefully read the requirements on the state's website to make sure you will meet the qualifications for your selected industry area. Next, you'll select your certification pathway for your selected industry area. Look at the various pathway requirements on the state's website. Ask yourself these questions to determine what pathway is right for you. What is your education level and background? What is your work experience? What, if any, industry credentials do you hold? Have you completed any industry level assessments? Remember, there's no one size fit all option in choosing your pathway. And you might find that you qualify for multiple pathways. Oftentimes people reach out to us and say, well, I qualify for 3, which one should I choose? It's at the discretion of the candidate to determine which pathway is best suitable based off your education and work experience. So we ask you to use all these resources to determine which fits your scenario. Next, you're gonna want to update your resume to get ready for your CTE teacher application. Here are some tips to consider when updating your resume. Make sure relevant experience for your industry area is visually prominent with headings like related industry experience. Be sure to clearly describe your roles and responsibilities and highlight your years of experience. Keep in mind that the resume is pertinent to your review of the New York City Public Schools teacher application. It will allow us to review your experience against the requirements for the New York State Education Department for your desired industry area. So this will allow us to determine if your application will be successfully screened and gain access to New York City Public Schools job opportunities. So a lot of times when applications get declined, candidates say, well, I have the experience, so why was my application declined? Our review is solely based on the requirements outlined by NYCED. So we urge you to look at the requirements and make sure that you're indicating your work experience clearly in your resume so we could properly evaluate your application. As we mentioned, the NYCPS is a separate entity from NYCED certification application. You will need to complete both, and you should do so at the same time. In order to submit your NYCPS teacher application, you can visit teachnyc.net, and the 2025-2026 NYCPS teacher application is still open and we're still accepting applications. So apply now to gain access to CTE job opportunities at NYC Public Schools. And as we just mentioned, you'll also want to create your NYCED Teach account to apply for Trans A certification. This way, as you complete your required workshops and etc. Any other requirements NYCED might require, you can upload them directly into your Teach account. Once you've submitted both applications, you're going to need to gather documentation to continue the certification process. Your required documentation will depend on the pathway you selected, but you may need to collect official transcripts, evidence of industry credentials, and a work verification form. Please be sure to get a copy of any work verification form submitted on your behalf. You may need it for follow-up. Applicants who completed their education outside of the United States must have a foreign credential report submitted directly by an acceptable organization. The New York State Education Department does not accept credential reports submitted directly by an applicant. The foreign credential report must be completed before New York City Public Schools will review your online application. So if you might find that you have the work experience, and if we're evaluating your education and work experience and we see that a foreign credential report was not provided to NYCED, the application will be declined. So we strongly encourage you to access this QR code if you have education outside of the United States and you want to use that towards your application to have a foreign credential report submitted to NYCED on your behalf. I know it's been a lot of information and we're almost there. Be sure to complete your required workshops. NYCPS is an official provider of these workshops, which you can find more information about this through this QR code. And now the job search part. Step 8. So you've selected your industry and pathway. You submitted your NYCED and NYCPS applications and collected your updated resume and documentation. It's time to begin the job search. Our office will review your New York City Public Schools teacher application. If it seems like you met the state's requirements for your selected industry and pathway, your application will be entered into the New Teacher Finder, or NTF. This is our online job board, and we will talk more about this shortly. Remember that you are responsible for finding your own job and securing a job offer, and committing to 3 years of teaching is a state requirement for obtaining Trans A certification. We offer lots of different job search supports and encourage you to take advantage of them all, including researching schools online, conducting direct outreach to schools, using the New Teacher Finder and vacancy list we send to you via email if your application is successfully screened, and attending workshops and networking events you are invited to. Don't forget to network with current or former colleagues, etc. You never know who might be able to connect you with a principal looking for a candidate just like you. Here we have a screenshot of what the new Teacher Finder, or the NTF, looks like. After selecting Search All Positions on the left panel, you can filter for the position type, your preferred borough, grade level, and subject area. Principals enter their vacancies into the NTF, and while you can express interest via the NTF, you could also email the principals directly, and we strongly encourage this to help show further interest. You can also visit NYCPS's CTE website to find information about all CTE schools. You can search by industry area as well as borough or district. We recommend that candidates send their resumes through principals of schools that have programs of interest, as they may have a need in the future, even if they don't have a current vacancy. So we strongly encourage you to network if you see a program in a particular in your particular industry area, but the vacancy doesn't exist sharing your resume or reaching out to principals. You never know what potential vacancies um, can appear. So it's good to network and put your name and experience out there. So we've made it this far, and we're almost at the end. Let's briefly recap the CTE process and your next steps, as well as where you can get additional support. We'll then go through questions we haven't answered yet to see if we can address any of them, um, especially any common questions that may have appeared in the chat or multiple people have been asking. We'll try to address them towards the end. So as a brief recap, Trans A certification is the main route for non-teacher candidates to teach CTE. There are multiple pathways to Trans A certification depending on your education and industry experience. Meeting the requirements of a pathway of your desired industry area is required for your NYCPS teacher application to be successfully screened. Securing employment with NYCPS and committing 3 years to an NYCPS school is a requirement to obtain, in addition to the requirements outlined in this presentation. And if you follow these steps, we strongly encourage you to follow these steps outlined to get started. As a preview of what happens after you receive a job offer, your principal will coordinate the next steps with the district's Human Resource Director, also known as the HRD. The HRD will contact you for documentation to submit to NYCPS's certification office. If the documentation submitted indicates that you meet the state's requirements for your selected pathway, the CERT office will grant you a temporary certification so you can begin teaching. Note that they will only do this if they are confident you will meet the state's requirements, so be sure to double and triple check those requirements on the state's website before applying. As we mentioned, the Trans A certificate is valid for 3 years. Within those 3 years, you will need to complete 3 courses, 9 credits total, as well as paid teaching. Visit the webpage and the QR code provided here for additional information regarding initial certification. You can also visit our online support for 24/7 support with the application and hiring process. The support center contains hundreds of articles about every stage of the application and hiring process, as well as a contact us button where you can submit your question to the TRQ help desk for personalized response from our team. And here are some additional links to websites and resources that can support you throughout the process. We have NYC's CTE's website, which has information about the entire Trans A certification process, as well as the Teach NYC CTE website that has information about our application process, as well as resources to help you support navigating the Trans A certification process. Then there's CTE.NYC, which is the official CTE website for schools and programs, where you can learn more about CTE schools and programs. And then our online support for any additional questions you may have. Please follow us on our NYCPS CTE LinkedIn page, Facebook, and Instagram to stay on top of what's happening at New York City Public Schools. We have really active social media platforms where we regularly share updates on the application and recruitment events, as well as news about what's going on in our schools and relevant opportunities for teachers. So join the conversation.